Dr. Garrett Barton is a board-certified family physician. I'm not going to read this kind of a resume or a bio that I have here in my hand, but I want you to, you're a physician.
Yes, sir.
And you're an announced candidate for Congressional District number 7.
Yes, sir.
In the Republican primary. And a lot of voters believe this is anybody but Rice. I don't know if that'll play itself out. We shall see. But before we get to specifics about the issues and where you land, tell us a little bit about who Dr. Garrett Barton is.
Well, thank you for having us on today, Ken. Well, first off, I'm a Christian. I'm a God-fearing man. That's my number one priority. I'm a family physician, as you mentioned. So part of my life has been all about serving the community, serving the people around me. And that's my wife's goal, too. She's also a family physician. We both have been living in rural South Carolina, out in Cheraw for the last several years. So that's who we are. We both grew up in rural areas smaller than Cheraw even. So we're used to that. We chose that and sought that out. That's something that's important to both of us. And, you know, part of our goal in life is to just make a difference. You know, we're not here just to take care of people, but I believe more so than just taking care of people's health, we have an obligation to help serve the community in other ways too.
So you're a physician in rural South Carolina. That's a pretty good life. Why run for Congress? I mean, what motivated? Was there a single example, a single incident? I mean, we have tirades on this show and rants on this show, and it kind of is self-therapeutic and cathartic for me. But what happened in your life that led you to a place where you believe it made sense to run for Congress?
So over the last several years, you know, I feel like this is something that's been placed on my heart, you know, just trying to seek out my purpose and you know, everyone can look at the kind of the temperature in the room of our national policies. And as time has gone on, people have just been unsettled. I don't think you can find anybody that you can talk to that hasn't, you know, you'd have to be kind of just buried in your head in the sand to see that there's problems. And as these problems have started to unravel, they're unraveling at a pretty rapid rate, I feel, at this point. And so for me personally, I feel like this is a time for true leaders in our community, true leaders in, you know, not just the community I live in, but communities across the state, across the country, to start standing up. You know, good people, like you said earlier this morning, I was listening to you on the way in here. You know, good people are just going to work. You know, they're just trying to keep the job. They're trying to support their family. And that's very important. But I feel like we're at a point now where we can't sit on the sidelines. This is what happens when you sit on the sidelines. Policies get rolled out that start encroaching on our rights. And I think that's something, you know, that if we don't stand up now, as you mentioned again, we're going to look around and say it's too late.
How much of your motivation was derived from Tom Rice, Congressman Rice, voting to impeach President Donald Trump?
So obviously that was a weighing factor in it. This is something besides Tom Rice. Tom Rice is just kind of a symptom of the greater problem, I feel. You know, Tom Rice came out being one of the few Republicans that condemned Trump, that voted to impeach Trump. And I think that was just the tipping point for our state, for our district. When you have 10 people like that voting, it doesn't just affect South Carolina, it affects the country. And what he's telling the people now is that his point of view is more important than what he represents as his constituents. And that's been part of his tour now. And I feel like when you get to a place where you start saying something different than the people you represent, it's time to go. Your job is solely to represent. And if you feel like your voice, what you feel personally, is not what the people around you are wanting, obviously it's time to go. And I feel it's time for him to go.
The impeachment of Trump will be a central theme to this election. The other 9, Liz Cheney and some other office holders, will have to answer to that. We'll see how it fares. I mean, I don't have any idea how severe a price those who did that will pay. But it doesn't exclude the fact that there's health care in America, that there's taxes in America, there's immigration. You've got a laundry list of the typical term limits, Supreme Court, pro-life, the budget, the First Amendment. What do you perceive as some of the critical issues outside of Trump and this America First movement that I think is, I mean, it's really kind of captivated a lot of the Republican base. But when we look at Politics 101, what are some of the issues that you perceive to be your priority if given the opportunity?
One of the areas I feel like I have a special, I guess, a better way to view things, only because of being a physician. I've been, in the trenches of this job now for decades or more, and just going through the process of training and dealing with everyday lives. I feel like I have a special leg up to help better guide our country and policies and ways to handle things like COVID, opioid problems in this country. President Trump is the orchestrator of this movement of America First, and I'm a firm believer in that. One of our things, though, is to say I believe that Trump brought this to the forefront. These are things people were afraid to say, I believe, and now that it's out in the forefront with how we handle immigration, how we handle opioids, it's not really a Trump thing. I think it's a whole country thing that he's just now been more, upfront about. So
when it comes to healthcare, 20% of our GDP, we complain all the time about health insurance premiums. There was a socializing of the healthcare market. And in essence, the only way Obamacare could work is for younger, healthier people to pay too much, so older, unhealthy people didn't have to pay as much. Being a physician, you live that life. I mean, it's not something you talk about 3 or 4 hours a day. Are there fundamental problems in healthcare in America? Maybe not simple solutions, but very accomplishable solutions.
Absolutely. Again, this is another thing. This is something that we all know is broken. The healthcare system is broken. Now, that doesn't mean we all jump ship and run to, healthcare for all. I think that has its own issues in and of itself. But there's a lot of issues in medicine that we deal with, and a lot of it has become there's so many hands in the pot now of medicine. There's insurance companies, there's levels of administration, there's all these things now that have complicated healthcare. And I think it's time for us to have a good hard look at that. Now, it's hard to do that, though, because you have a lot of lobbyists. You have a lot of people that want to keep the status quo because it lines pockets. I mean, that's the truth of it. But I do feel like there's ways to make a change for the better. And what better way to have change than have somebody who actually deals with the day-to-day? I live and breathe every day in those office with my patients. I spend all day talking to them about what their problems are, what their kids are doing at sporting events, all that kind of stuff. So I have I feel like a special lens in to see real people and how to make a true difference, not just a difference that may adjust a bottom line.
Okay, last question, and this is very near and dear to my heart. I come from a town with no stoplight. Mm-hmm. Population less than 1,000. I mean, it's who I am. It's everything that good, bad, or indifferent that is built into the DNA of who I am comes from there. I struggle watching the plight of rural America. I mean, it breaks my heart to see what has happened to that way of life. And I've often said on this show, if rural America goes away, we lose a part of our soul. I mean, we sincerely do. There's a value system there that I think is good for America. Mm-hmm. Is there any way government plays a role in restoring or creating some sort of rebirth or regeneration of what I call hope and promise in rural America, opportunity in rural America?
Rural America, as I mentioned before, my wife and I are both from very small towns. We live in a small town now. We choose that. We like that because it's community. Community is a big part of what I believe in, what my wife believes in. And as far as the government having a say in that, the government, there's programs and grants and all that out there. I think what truly is going to make a difference in small town is just simply like this. People start coming together, making a difference. Regardless of, political affiliation, this is something that you have to realize. If people don't come together and start supporting our downtown small businesses, bringing in industries, trying to make a difference like that, it just slowly withers away. And it doesn't take much to start driving out into these farther off corners of the district to see these small towns, and it's sad. It's sad because these industries have moved in and jobs have been kind of shifted over and taken away, and then they're left with just empty, abandoned buildings. So I believe if we're going to make a difference, it's going to take people rolling up their sleeves, coming together, and getting serious about it. One thing Florence has done, which is nice, is you look downtown. Florence has tried to make a difference with their downtown, and So that needs to happen across the state, which I know that there's some things out there for that. But I'm a firm believer in that. And I believe if we lose that, we're looking at nothing more than just big cities. So.
Okay. You're a candidate. You're an announced candidate. I would imagine a website, an email address. I mean, if somebody out there is listening and likes what they've heard, how can they communicate and find out more about Dr. Garrett Barton as a candidate for U.S. For South Carolina Seat 7 in the U.S. Congress?
Yes, sir. So check us out at bartonforcongress.com. That is our website. We have all of our issues on there. There's places to donate, which is very helpful for our cause. And I just ask that you take a look at it. If you want something different, if you want somebody who's of the people, I believe I'm that guy. You know, my whole goal is to represent people, not represent anything other than that. And if I ever come to a point where I don't represent that, please boot me out. This isn't a career long-term job for me. I will go back to serving my community the way I have been. But that's the goal, is we got to start getting true leaders and real people back into our seats.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a break. We'll be back in just a minute.